Warning: the program you are about to watch is intended for those with an open mind. We speak freely and openly about topics that affect the well-being of all people. Our intention is not to offend, disrespect, or harm anyone, nor are our views hateful in any way. With that being said, if you are overly sensitive, lack independent thought, or follow the masses blindly, this show probably isn't for you. Enjoy!
I just felt like there was somebody kind of around.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Stupid Steve and Ian Daibo, and we are here with episode 5 of Penny for Your Thoughts. And today's episode is going to be about paranormal activity. You ready to do paranormal stuff, Ian?
Yeah,
No, I know damn good well you just like looking at this show like, you know what? Oh,
I
paranormal
know.
activity. But we're going to get through it. I'm going to convince you. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I haven't had much of an experience or anything at all, really. Maybe just a couple of what's it called, the lucid dreaming. So I'm really excited to hear your stories and just see, an authentic viewpoint, like from me, from having nothing into listening to you, and see if you can change my mind on it. Yeah.
I'm going to do my best. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Paranormal activity. Penny for Your Thoughts, episode 5. Let's go.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So, I know you're very skeptical, and when I kind of felt your angst when I said let's do paranormal stuff, and then we was kind of going down this path, and then now I could definitely see a difference between moon landing and paranormal activity on your information headed my way.
Yeah.
Very little stuff sent this week, so I'm going to try my best to kind of drive this show for this because I know you're skeptic. I know you're a skeptic of it.
I say skeptic. It's only because I couldn't sit here tonight and say, oh, I completely believe in the paranormal because I haven't had anything done to me. I'm only going off of stories that I've had, and as much as I believe, like you've told me one of your stories just at the end of one of these podcasts, we'll let it run, and you were telling me, and I'm so intrigued and like I'm excited to hear more. And I'm not like, because I know you, I think well enough to know you're a sincere person, you wouldn't lie, but that's all I have to go off. So it would be very disingenuous if I was to sit here and, before we go on with the show and say I'm a believer. So I'm going to say I'm 50-50 right now and see how the show progresses. Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is I don't know. It blows me away when somebody says like, I've never had a paranormal experience, or I believe. I don't know how anybody can be an atheist and just not to believe that we're just here and there's nothing after this and you're just an organism that lives and dies, because there's so many just unexplained things and phenomenon that happens throughout your life, and it's just a matter of whether or not you pay attention to it. So you're telling me that there's absolutely nothing that happened in your life that makes you say that's strange. You was never like supposed to be somewhere, or something bad happened and you wasn't there, or nothing. You've never looked at the clock and just kept noticing the same number over and over again, like somebody was reaching out to you. You had to have felt something inside.
I mean, if you go down that route, I suppose, like when I think when we had our Mandela Effect episode, that week was very weird for me. I had loads of like deja vu experiences and loads of syncing up of like thoughts from earlier on in the week, and they were ending up coming to fruition at the end of the week. And I don't know if I would put that down in this category. Maybe you do. I'm very inexperienced in paranormal. When I think of paranormal, I think of ghosts and demons and things flying off the wall and things like that, and or visions. Maybe some people have said they've saw ghosts, and I certainly haven't had any of those. The only experience I could have that I'll talk about later on in the show is having these sleep paralysis episodes. I have definitely had one, 100%. I might have had two, and I'll hopefully you'll be the judge if you feel that it was, because there was definitely a difference between. I know I've had plenty dreams all my life. I dream quite a lot, but this dream was definitely different, and I'm excited to share that with you just to see what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. Like it's you don't look at it. You look at paranormal like ghost and whatever ghouls and shit like that. But to me, lucid dreaming is entering. It is, and you mentioned it before the show. Whatever. It's kind of like realms. Like when you think of them with realms and there's things around. Like I believe there is realms that you slip into sometimes when you are dreaming or when you experience something paranormal, like a sleep paralysis or something like that. Like I look at spiritual things not so much as ghosts and things like that, but just a different. I don't know. I mean, not. You've never seen a ghost either. You've never seen like any
No,
kind of. You never felt a spirit. You've never felt
no,
eyes on you or something crazy. Like never.
no, no.
Man, it's so crazy. That's so crazy.
I know. I feel I said this to you before the show as well. My mum is very. She's not like she doesn't go seeking out every day, and she's not like an avid watcher of any shows. But she would say that she would believe in all this stuff, and she used to get her cards read. It's when she was feeling down, she used to go. Our best friend was a tarot card reader, and I'm sure I asked her like when she was younger, she was a bit of a her and her friends would get up to some mischief, and she did the Ouija boards and things, and
Yeah. Well,
being
she
a
opened herself up to it.
yeah, that's what I was getting on to. It's like
Right.
when I was like 14, 15, and she was, going out the house at nights, and I was like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm away to get my cards read." And I'd be like, "Oh," and I'd just get so mad because I was young and maybe I was a bit scared. But I was like, "Don't mess with these things. These things aren't to be messed with. I don't like it. It just didn't sit well with me." And not because I thought she was doing anything bad, but if there is something, then I would definitely respect it. Like anyone tells me a story, I'll respect their story. Anyone, you know, there's for me the dimensional thing, and I do believe in that to a certain extent, and I feel kind of guilty saying that because I haven't had any experiences and I haven't looked into it. Like when we do dimensions and things, and we'll look into it with, our research, it's going to be like the first time I've really done it, so I can't say that either. But there's definitely something more to life than just us, there's definitely
Right.
something in an alternative dimension or something that maybe we
Has to be. Like there
yeah.
has to be. There's no way that we just developed on this earth and there's so much evidence pointed towards, there has to be something more to this life than just we're here, we live, we die, we throw in the dirt. I just don't understand how people
Hmm.
believe that because I've had a lot of experiences. I'll tell you my very first ever thing, and this was before anybody told me I should be scared of anything. And I don't know why this always sticks in my mind because I was literally like 4 or 5 years old. I mean, I was tiny, and my grandmother had a Buddha statue, and that fucking thing, it was scared the shit out of me. I just felt this evil presence from this Buddha statue, and that was the first time I've kind of ever noticed some type of had a feeling about that thing. I would have nightmares about that statue. There was bad energy coming off of that thing, and that's like the first time I've ever felt. You know what I mean? Because I do believe it's all part of energy. Like you
Yeah.
could feel vibes. Like feeling a vibe to me, that's a I wouldn't say paranormal experience, but it's definitely something to it. I mean, we put off energies, we put off, and the other entities put off energies, and you can feel that thing. And I'm going to talk about that with sleep paralysis
Yeah.
because I was telling you after this, sleep paralysis is often it's happened to me quite a few times. And when you
Hmm.
feel it, it's usually was it a bad energy that you felt that was free was
Oh
frozen
yeah.
in fear, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you my story. When I bought my house in 2012, I moved in and obviously I had a bed. I didn't have a bed. I ordered it. It was going to take weeks to come, so I was sleeping down the stairs for the first couple of weeks, um, and I was on the sofa. And I had just recently bought a cat. I still got my cat Molly, and I don't know if it was this, maybe because I watched a video just before we came on here about sleep paralysis, and there was something that freaked me out watching that video because when you hear what happened to me, so I'm lying there sleeping, and I opened my eyes. This is what happened in my sleep paralysis episode, right? So I'm lying there and my eyes open, but I can't move. And my stairs to go up the stairs are in the living room where I was sleeping. So I'm lying like facing the stairs going up there. And all of
Was
a
you lying
sudden
on your
this,
back? Hold on. Was you lying on
yeah,
your back?
lying on my
Yes.
back, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
with my arms like on my
Yep. That's
on yeah, on
usually
my
that's
chest,
what
yeah.
can trigger sleep paralysis.
Yeah. So I'm actually like facing my kitchen door and the stairs are diagonally on front of me on that wall. And I see through the slats, this is gonna sound crazy.
No.
I, it's like a black caped figure came down the stairs, like almost like they weren't walking, they were like, drifting down. What came over to me, bent down on its knees, and it had the face of like a black cat, but its teeth were like jaggy, like that filter on Snapchat that's hilarious, with
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
the jaggy teeth, and it had it almost like an Egyptian sphinx, but a black faced like black cat almost
It was a
with
shadowy
yellow eyes.
figure. You have
Yeah,
seen the Shadow Man.
yeah, and it bent down and it sunk its teeth into my arm and was just sucking, and I could feel the pain in my arm, like I could feel it, and I was like, like looking down. I couldn't talk, and then it just got up and wiped its face and just went back up the stairs, and I was like, oh my! And when I woke up, there was no doubt there was no way it was a dream because I know dreams. It felt so real.
Yeah. That's what it is. The Shadow Man, or what you call the Hat Man, it's always associated with sleep paralysis. Always, always, always. And that's a different. I've never heard. I mean, I guess there's other people. See, that's a phenomenon, and I've had it happen to me quite a few times. I'll go ahead and tell my fucking Hat Man story. We'll go ahead
Yeah.
and since we're doing it, we might as well do it. So here's the thing with me. Like when I lived in a house one time, and when we moved in, right before we moved in, there was a murder suicide, and right next door. We literally moved in like a day or two after, so something bad happened there, right? And that house, I swear, I had a lot of instances in it. But there was so many things going on in that house, so many paranormal things and bad things that were going on in the house. I had somebody come out and bless my house, but the Shadow Man or the Hat Man is something that's happened to me. It happened to me in that house 3 separate occasions, but one that really freaked me out. I'll go ahead and tell you this. So I would have sleep paralysis in the middle of the night. I would wake up frozen in fear, whatever, and the Hat Man or the Shadow Man would be standing right next to my bed with a bunch of tiny figures. Now, the first time I ever seen, because this is not something that happens to you one time. Like the Shadow Man, the Hat Man, whatever it's a worldwide phenomenon. Lots of people have this happen to them. This is not just something that a few people, this is millions of people across the world. It's always associated with sleep paralysis. It's always associated with sleeping on your back. Sometimes they say bad things that happen around can bring him on, whatever the case may be. But anyways, so that's how it would go for me. I'd be in sleep paralysis. I'd see this shadow figure. The first time I ever seen him, I was in the hospital when I was 13 years old. I had to have life-saving surgery on my eye because I had a sinus infection that was headed to my brain or whatever. So I had to live in a hospital for 2 weeks. And that's the first time I've ever seen the Hat Man. And he stood over my bed in the hospital room. I'm screaming and yelling, whatever, whatever. And years later, okay, I got kids of my own at this point. We're moving into this house, and I have this happen to me again, and happened to me several times. But here's where it's really crazy. Years later, after we moved out of that house, me and my son, well, both my boys are sitting outside of a gym waiting to go in for practice, or waiting for our time to go in for practice. And we're talking about different things, paranormal stuff. And all of a sudden he said, Dad, I never told you this, but when I was little, I used to watch this large man in a hat. He was dark, he was like a shadow man, and he would walk in and have a bunch of small people standing all around him, and they would go into your room. And my heart sunk into my stomach. It gave me goosebumps all over. And I was like, because then now at that point, it's no longer my imagination. It's no longer a dream. It's no longer something that I thought of in my head.
Yeah.
He saw these people come into my room. They were physically coming in there and doing God. I mean, it was horrifying. And I can't tell you how many times I woke up in the middle of the night. We had a cross that hung above our head. and I woke up one night and I would, or any night, because it's happened to me tons of times, and I would be frozen in fear, and I would feel the energy and the hatred, and it was directed toward that cross that was hanging over my bed for whatever reason. I could feel it. I can feel how much hate was in that room next to me. I couldn't see anything, whatever, but I could just feel the energy and the hatred for the cross that was hanging above my bed. Like I could feel those things. I've had so many instances in that house, evil. Just I couldn't wait to get out of there, and I'm so glad I am. But as far as the Hat Man goes, and that seems to me like what you experienced, and like I said, it's a phenomenon around the world. It's definitely there's definitely something up with that. But when he told me he's seen that happen, I was like, oh, that just took it to a whole nother level for me. That was a holy shit moment.
Gee, that would have been hair standing up on your neck when he told you that.
Oh
Mm,
man, I was like, it just you get goose. I immediately got
yeah,
goosebumps. So I was like, oh my god, because now it's like, oh, that really happened to me. Like
yeah.
there's somebody in that room with me.
Was it, do you know it's weird because I've often heard that. Was your son young at the time when he said he was seeing them?
What is it?
How old would have your son been when he was seeing them?
Oh
Because
God,
I mean,
7, 8, 9.
yeah, because I've often heard that, like, we always think that pets and animals can see, like, they've got a sixth sense, and also
Right.
a lot of people believe that young kids can see things, before a certain age. Like, I think it's
Hmm.
all to do with like the pineal gland, and I mean
Yep.
that's very interesting. I'm really interested in, like, well, you've just said it there about how it's a phenomenon that a lot of people see this Hat Man,
Right.
and I've often heard it about like there are certain drugs that we can take that everybody sees the same thing, and that just blew my mind when I heard that. It's like, to me that makes me more interested in that because if we're all seeing the same thing, then what is it? Like,
You know
is
what I
there?
think? You know what my honest? You know what I think it is, like paranormal stuff like that, and like the Hat Man in particular. I believe that there are parallel universes and there are multiple dimensions all around us, and I think that these are entities that are able to travel in and out of them.
Yeah.
They can manipulate them and they can control them and they can travel in and out and
Hmm.
through energy or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. Even back in the ancient times, they found so many spots that were like they believed to be portals and people because back then they didn't have a reason to lie about anything. Like they didn't have a reason to manipulate or lie. It wasn't like mainstream media was about or whatever. Like they were telling what they were telling us is what they were seeing and experiencing.
Yeah.
And there is lots of instances in the ancient times, like the Babylonians and the Sumerians and everything, who had access to portals to other dimensions and interdimensional beings or whatever the case may be. The Shadow Man in particular is somebody. I think it is a interdimensional being.
Yeah.
Like we talked about CERN on our show. It's like opening up different multiple dimensions. Like when you die, I don't believe you just die.
Hmm.
I've actually they have photos of bodies who have died, and you can almost see the spirit lifting
Yeah.
out of them in
Yeah.
some of those photos. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of things like that, but and they say that body instantly gets 3 pounds lighter or two and a half
Yeah.
pounds lighter when it dies because there's an energy in us. It's all about energy, and that's what you're seeing when you see a ghost. You're not, you're seeing an energy. You're seeing an entity, something that it shouldn't be in this dimension. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Again, I'm really intrigued about the whole energy thing. I believe I've heard throughout my research and listening to podcasts, you hear little tidbits as you go along, and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. But it's like they often say, like, you can heal people using music, is like because it's the
Oh
energy.
yeah.
So
Well, everybody puts off their own
yeah,
vibration. Everybody broadcasts at their own frequency. That's what attracts us to each other. It's the law of attraction.
yeah,
You and your wife and whatever you have very very connective energy. We're
yeah,
all full of our own different type of energy. You can even drain somebody's energy. There's people
yeah.
out there like they believe they're witches and shit. And they can drain your positive energy from you just by being around you and shit. But yeah.
Hmm.
It is intriguing. It's interesting when you start talking about energy and how it works and
Hmm.
different frequencies and how we broadcast ourselves and vibes you get off of people and things like that. It is pretty crazy.
Hmm.
But that's what
Well,
these people are.
when you go down the route of dimensions, I've got another story I could tell. This one stuck with me for a while. I was at my tattoo artist getting I was like a 3 hour session, and we got chatting, and she's very into this stuff, like paranormal and things, and she was doing a type of I think I want to say it was like a type of yoga that you can, if you get to like the very black belt end of like learning it, you can actually self project and like what is it, astro project or something like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh wait, is
Astral
it?
projections.
It's called Reiki. It just came to me. Is it Reiki? So you can
Yeah.
heal and you can do things. So I'm maybe wrong on that one, but it was because we were talking about that. She was taking classes, and then we got into like paranormal, and she her mum was having certain instances in our house where things were happening, and she could hear voices, things were moving all the time, doors were slamming, and she ended up having to get someone round. And when they came in, I think it was a priest, maybe an exorcist or whatever. But so I'm listening, and what had happened was when he came into the house, she said that it mainly happens in the upstairs bedroom. So they went upstairs, and the priest went in and said like he'd done his thing. He put the sage, and he was like chanting and doing his thing. And he says, "You must leave, move on." And the voice turned and said, "Leave? I live here. Why would I leave? This is my house. You leave." And it was clear as day. And they all, like her and her mom and the exorcist heard it. So I think that's what makes me like kind of, I think she agreed. It must be dimensional that these people that have maybe died
Have just
or
not
maybe have
passed
always
on.
been, and they maybe live like right in this room right now. This could be someone else's bedroom. Someone could be sitting right there in another dimension, watching the TV, which is sat right like that is how I picture it. It's like
Hmm.
Rick and Morty. I always use that example. I watch Rick and Morty a lot, and it's all about like dimensions. And when we go to a crossroads at traffic lights or what, we go right, but maybe one of our dimensional beings turns left, and
Yeah, and
it's
travels
really,
down different paths. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I believe. Like that, I think that. And again, I think all of this is associated with the divine or with paranormal or whatever. But I believe that's what deja vu is when your interdimensional being cross paths.
hmm,
You know, if it feels like you've done it before, it's
yeah,
because you probably have done it before. I mean, if
yeah,
you've been in that situation, I've happened to me. I've had deja vu probably 3 or 4 times, and and it beyond a shadow of a doubt, like I don't remember this instant, but for whatever reason, I've done this before. Like it's
hmm,
like I'm watching a replay of something that I've already lived through, and I think that is your two interdimensional beings kind of crashing together before they head off on
yeah.
different paths again. But yeah,
I
maybe
get
just
those.
the energy. I don't know.
I get those episodes where you feel like you're dreaming. You're awake, you're at work
Hmm.
possibly, and you just feel there's a weirdness in your head or whatever, and you're like, am I dreaming right now? Like you've wanted to rub your eyes and like what's happening? I just feel a bit weird just for a few minutes, and it's like in deja vu again. Obviously, I've had tons of episodes of deja vu, and that's what I'm saying. I think life's so interesting. Like I'm going back to the whole conspiracy thing and how conspiracy theorists are being, slated on a daily basis nowadays. But life is so much more interesting when you learn these things. If you just think that you're born one day and 80 years later, if you're lucky, you're dead, and nothing happens after that, and nothing happens in between, and there's no weirdness, and it's like you've got such a dull life if that's what you believe. And
There's no way to me. There's just simply no way. Like I'm a big believer in energy.
yeah,
I'm a big believer that people, there nothing happens on accident. Nothing. Your energy draws you in one direction or another, and it draws you to certain people, and certain energy picks up on other certain energy. I mean, I've been around. I'm sure you've been around people where you just not feeling it, right? There's a vibe there where just like this person's just not,
yeah,
the clashing energies affect, and that's
yeah,
what I think we are. And I think when you die, and I've watched somebody pass on, and the process or whatever, it's your energy and what's inside of you and your spirit, if you want to call it a spirit, if you want to call it your energy, if you want to call it your chi, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that's what leaves you. And it doesn't just die, it doesn't just cease to exist. Your
mhm,
energy is transferred into something else, like and even all religions kind of, as much as people want to believe they differ, I feel like it's just several different people all worshiping the same exact thing. Whether
mhm,
you're Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever, it doesn't matter. it's all intertwined and it's all one thing, and that's that spiritual energy that's put inside of
Yeah.
that's what makes you you, and what draws you and guides you through life is your energy.
Hmm.
And that's what leaves. That's what we see. That's what the spears are, the orbs that people call them, or when you feel somebody's presence. And I don't know if you've ever, but I've felt the presence of a lot of different things. You're feeling that energy, and that's what's. And some things, evil entities, good entities, whether you're seeing angels, whether you're seeing ghosts, whatever the case may be, whether they're trapped here, they have not passed on to those parallel universes, if you
Yeah.
will, because I do believe they very well. I'm like highly believe that they exist.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a route we could have went down, and we'll probably will do an episode on this. But like, I I, I listened to a podcast this week in preparation, but I believe we could save it for a whole different topic. But all the religious beliefs and what happens to us after we die, all the funerary practices and things that happen, and yeah, just belief systems after death and what happens to us, reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I like the one. I've only ever heard one episode on it, so there's no knowledge on it other than just the book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I don't know if you've heard it, where
Mm-mm.
I think they believe that when you die, and everyone, you've heard this thing about go towards the light. Well, seemingly they believe when you go towards the light, there's also a second option off to the right hand side, and there's an entity, and it's, I think if I remember rightly, the entity sat on a flower, like on a petal, and it's saying, "Look, come with me, and if you go that way, that's you done. Like you go to heaven, and or wherever, like wherever they believe. But if you go to the light, you then become reborn. The light is basically another vagina, and you're coming out of it."
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard that theory quite a few times.
yeah,
Maybe the light at the end of the tunnel is just another vagina you're coming out of.
yeah.
And maybe it is.
No, no. When I hear people's stories, I give them, even down to people that I haven't met. I've heard of stories where young kids, like maybe I remember a girl in my class at school when we were like 14. She told us all in the playground at break time that her younger brother had said he'd been here before, and it was when like his mom and dad took them all on a holiday, and the young boy, her little brother, was only like 4 or 5, and he turned to his mom and dad and said, "I've been here before," and he actually knew that round the corner there was this
Yeah.
statue. And I know it's something that stuck with me, obviously, because I was 13, 14 at the time. And when I hear stories like that, and you were mentioning earlier about when people say that they've died and some people can actually see the soul leaving the body. When I hear stories like that, I give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, if one of these people have told the truth, then it means it must be real. There could be thousands and thousands, if not millions, of people with ghost stories and their visions and what they've seen and done. And if only one of them were telling the truth, then that's good enough for me. So when I hear it from someone like yourself, who I know enough to know that, then honestly don't feel bad about, like, because I know people are reluctant to tell stories in case they get people thinking, oh, they're crazy or that. But trust me, in the game that we're in, when we're talking about conspiracies, you've got to leave all that at the door.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You kind of have to check that up.
Yeah,
You're going to get into some things, and you have to. There's a reason we do this because we've had experiences, or
yeah.
we think outside the box because you have
Hmm.
to, because this world is not supposed to be cardboard dry. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the truth is a lot stranger than the fiction, because the fiction, what they're telling you is what their depiction of what life should be. It's just you live, you die, you pay your taxes, that's it. There's lots more to it. That's not the truth. That's a lie.
yeah,
The life and the world you live in, is there's so much more to it than that. There just is, and that's why I just don't get. I'll never get a true atheist. I will never understand it. Like, I just don't understand how you just think that's it. Like, you have to feel incredibly small
hmm,
throughout life to
yeah,
believe you're just here, just floating
yeah,
around on this rock, and for
yeah,
no reason.
hmm,
Every life has a reason. Every story is one that needs to be told. You know what I mean? Like, um, and there's more to it. It's just surrounding us all. I do
yeah.
believe that.
Have you? Seen any ghosts? Have you seen any visions?
Oh yeah, I've had I mean, where do I again? God, man, where do I start? Right? Do you want to get? I don't know if I
Because
want to go.
for me, the whole episode tonight, when I was thinking about, like see-through people that hover into your house and leave through the
Yeah,
walls and things like that's what my belief in is like the paranormal and ghosts. So I mean, I'm intrigued to know if you've seen anything
yeah.
visually. Yeah, like
I mean, I could go to a bunch of different places, but there's a place here. Ohio's pretty haunted. There's some haunted places up in Ohio, but there's a place I was telling you about. I think I don't know. We was talking
yeah.
and it's called the Powder Factory, and it was where they made gunpowder back in World War II in the 30s and 40s. They made gunpowder for our soldiers and stuff for the guns over there, and it exploded, and it had been vacant ever since then. And we've been there, and we went there, and people go there all the time. I think they shut it down now. The cops will go in and get you, but kids still go there to this day because it still stands because it is so unbelievably terrifying in this place. You do hear a lot of stuff going on. You hear things slapping, smacking the wall. You hear people walking around you. You get sudden burst of cold that goes through you. You can feel something going through you, and depending on where you're at in there, you can see things just fly by. You don't know what it is. You're assuming it's a ghostly figure, right? Like you're assuming it's a person because a lot of people died in there. I don't know the exact number of people, but it was like a couple hundred, I believe, died in this explosion. And it is absolutely terrifying. I did not like being in there at all. But I seen that stuff, and then the house that I lived in, I've seen. Just I could not tell you the amount of stuff that house was probably the most horrifying 4 years, 5 years of my entire life. I used to wake up in the middle of the night and I would shake my wife. Okay, I'm something 6'3", 220 pounds, and I'm terrified, and I'm shaking her like, "Hey, you got to get up. You have to get up. Like there's something in here right now," because they would fuck with me and whatever was going on. And I've seen it. I've seen, things walking. I've seen things walk past me. I've felt them standing over me. I told you the Shadow Man story. I just all that stuff, and the hatred and the amount of lucid dreaming. I remember a dream that I had, and this is going to be another crazy one, but it was in this house. And so I'm dreaming, and it's a party, and there's drugs everywhere, there's girls everywhere, it's all the way live. I'm like, excited, like, hey, it's the dream world, I'm all hyped. And then the moment that I became lucid, and the moment that I realized that something wasn't right and that I was in a dream world, everything around me just they were staring at me with this hatred. They all froze and just stared at me, like I just messed up everything, right? And then I got a note on, and I don't know if I'm going to get into it said the post-it note. So my brother-in-law who had passed away was in this dream, and he hands me a post-it note, and it said the keys to life are through the right notes. And I wrote that quote down, Ian. This is a crazy fucking story. Because I knew I was lucidly dreaming. I was walking around the dream world, and this meant something. It said, "The keys to life are through the right notes." And I wrote that quote down, and I Googled it, and I searched it heavy for about 2.5 weeks, and I could not find this quote anywhere. But I do believe it means something. It's one that's stuck in my head for, God, 10 years now.
And you've now got a tattoo of it on your arm.
Huh? I
And you've
know
now
I didn't get
no.
it, but it was just weird. I never heard that quote before. I don't know what the fuck it meant, and I do believe because shortly after I started studying music and how it affects your soul and how it affects you personally, and I watched this tribe. There's a tribe in Australia that they believe that they can connect to God through a rhythmic beat. It's the same rhythmic beat. So they smoke something. I don't know what kind of Amazon shit they're smoking. And then they do this rhythmic beat, boom, boom, boom. And then they go into this trance. And that's when they connect with their pineal glands, evidently, and connect. And that's what I always thought it meant, because music can be very spiritual. I think that's what the whole lucid dream meant there.
Yeah.
But that was interesting. You ever done anything like you had to have lucid
No,
dreamed and been in that realm?
no. Apart from that sleep paralysis episode, I've never experienced any. You know something? I think I've told you this one before, but my biggest fear in life, from I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, was death. It's the only fear I have is thinking that when we die, There's nothing. There's just nothing for millions and millions and millions. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
could think of that in my head and my heart would start racing. I'd wake up through the middle of the night and just wake up, not like because I'd heard a noise, and I'd be lying trying to get back to sleep, and my mind would start drifting towards thinking about death, and I would just have to get up and or wake up my partner and have a conversation or go get a glass of like it freaked me out. And I think what it was, my granda let me watch E.T. the film when I was too young, and it just scarred me. So from 5 years of age to like 13, 14, I used to have recurring nightmares about E.T. And it would always be like I'd be at a window and it'd be dark and I'd be pouring myself a glass of water and I'd look out the window and there would be like a thunder and lightning strike and he would be there in the garden looking up at the window at me. And these things just like haunted me. I was like death and aliens and it just freaked me out. So I think I've shut myself off to learning about them or delving into them rather than what I think a lot of people probably would have done is like look into it and reach out and get your cards read, get your future read, your future told and things. So
Yeah, I mean,
possibly that's
we talked
yeah,
a little bit before the show. You can close yourself off to it too,
yeah,
and that's what I've done that myself recently. I was talking about, but yeah, I've closed myself off to it recently, and I notice a lot less things happen, and it kind of does make you wonder: am I just all imagining all this? But then again, it's just there's so many millions of people out in the world that there's so many things that have happened. There's no way it can be coincidental. There's no way like a lot of this stuff can just be something that just oh, that was strange. And then you just move on when you see something or you feel something, or you
yeah.
experience something.
Mm-hmm.
Especially lucid dreamings and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you tried? There's ways to try to lucid
Yeah,
dream,
well,
right?
that's what I was actually going to say for the listeners that maybe are new to this stuff. The reason why we're mentioning a lot of these drugs, DMT, ayahuasca, and things, and before I go into it again, that's what makes me believe that there's so much more to life because there's substances on this earth that can help us reach higher levels of awareness, which is weird. Like, and I've never had any experience with any of them, but I've obviously listened to Joe Rogan. He was the one that turned me on to DMT, and he's a big advocate of it. And some people say with weed edibles and things that you can hallucinate. And I'd never done anything, and I still haven't ever taken anything like that. So I haven't had any experiences, but it really intrigues me. And I'm even hearing there's retreats that you can go to and take these substances in a secure, you're maybe living on a ranch with like-minded people, and you go out and you sit on the beach and you all take this stuff around a fire. I may be selling it a bit too,
No,
it
no, no,
sounds
no,
a bit
no. Go
sounds a
ahead.
bit culty, but it's not. It's just like the whole spiritual higher being, these substances. And again, what I was alluding to was that there's materials on this earth that can do that. It blows my mind because we're told, like the mainstream narrative or the Big Bang theory that there was an explosion of atoms and we're here. And I just think it's the most ridiculous one because we have, all these materials like sand and grass and water and things from an explosion. And I think even ayahuasca, if I'm not mistaken, it's a powder that you get from rubbing a frog, a certain type of frog,
Mm-hmm.
the sweat glands or the skin of it. If you
Yeah.
rub it on something and let it dry, and you smoke that substance, it gets you somewhere that, oh God, like it's just crazy.
Yeah, it
So
is, and those things exist here for a reason. Like
yeah,
DMT, they find that stuff in the Amazon. That's a natural plant. Like talk about you could talk about marijuana, but mushrooms, magic mushrooms that are grown. That's a natural, completely natural thing. You talk about the frog that you could smoke the stuff that comes out of their glands or whatever. And there's a reason why it's discovered, and there's a reason
yeah,
why it's here.
yeah,
It's so you they and what I wanted to say furthermore that there's ways to that you can connect with the spiritual realm. There's ways that God, whatever you think God is, or at least a higher being, has placed on this earth for us to make a connection there, right? But there's also ways that can hurt that connection as well, and do that. As we talk conspiracy, they do not want you to have a higher spiritual conscience, which is why they load your drinking water with fluoride, which is why toothpaste is so much fluoride, because fluoride hardens your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is your key. And I don't know if we probably should do a full show on the pineal gland and how it works, but because I know a lot about it, and they know a lot about it. The Vatican knows about it. The elites know about it. Trust me, they know, and it's in their. They have symbolism for the pineal gland and shit. Even the ancient Egyptians, the eye of Horus is the pineal gland. That's our connection, and there's ways to hurt that as well, and they know that because they do not want people having a higher consciousness. They don't want you thinking outside the box. You're small, you're little, you're insignificant in this tiny little world. Just live, die, pay your taxes, whatever.
Well, that's why earlier when I was asking you about how old your son was when he said he saw the Hat Man, because we're going down that route of the pineal gland, and my belief in that is when we're newly born and we're young, we're pure, we're fresher, we're eating, better foods, and the pineal gland through time with fluoride and even the stuff that we're eating now, our vegetables with GMO and sugar, I believe that's kind of cutting us off.
Oh yeah, there's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that the belief in God and the belief in spiritual world and the belief that there's a higher power has diminished over the years, because your spiritual self-consciousness is under attack big time. They don't want you to have that connection. They do not want you to connect with the spiritual world. And you are definitely right about that. When you are a kid, you have a higher consciousness level because you haven't put the toxins in your body to make. It's the same way with like people that live in the Amazon, or tribes that are still out there living in the wild and living a tribal life. They're more connected with the spiritual realm because they're not poisoning their bodies with this stuff, and their minds anyways, because it does affect our brains. Not to mention the stuff we watch on TV. It's like, it's mind numbing. Our phones that are, it just creates this huge wall is what it does between you and a higher sense of feeling. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Even down to like your Buddhists and that they can fast for long periods of time. They don't need any food, or I'm sure they're taking water, but like people that do like the certain types of yoga that I mentioned, and they can reach a higher sense. Like seemingly some of them can astral project, so they can see themselves if they get to a higher grade. This is things I've picked up and learned. I don't know for sure, but that's where I'm like on this whole subject. I've heard all these stories, and I often think not everyone's lying. I know there are a lot of people out there that like to sell a story for money and things like that, or their shells, but I like to see the good in people. And hearing your stories tonight and other stories that I've picked up, it's like if one of those stories is true, and again, when we talk about those substances that we can take and we all see the same thing, I think it's key that I mentioned that, because if there was drugs out there, which I was always of the understanding that if me and all my mates were in a room and we all took LSD or some hallucinogenic, that I would see certain things, my mate would see a different thing, the other mate would see a different thing. But when what blew my mind is when Joe Rogan and all them were talking about DMT, where they go into this alternative dimension and there's entities that come up to them and talk to them and say, calm down and you're fine, and they're just going about their business, and everyone sees that same thing.
Right.
That blew my mind. So what is that same thing that we can all access exactly the same? Like, because
that's what I was going to make the point when you said it sounds kind of culty or whatever when people are in groups doing things like that. It's because you're all connecting on the same energy. You're all producing on the same wavelength. You're all stepping into the same realm together, right? Your energies are connected. And if you have bad energy, like when you do, and I'm somebody who's done LSD in the past plenty of times, and we'll have to do a full show on different, on the hallucinogenics, but you connect. I've always done it in a group, and whether it's good energy or bad energy, you have a good trip or it's going to be determined whether you have a good trip or a bad trip, right? And you all connect on that wavelength. And when you go somewhere, sometimes it can overwhelm you. When you go somewhere there's a large gathering of people, it can be very overwhelming because there's so many conflicting energies in that room. And when everybody's doing LSD in that room and there's a huge gathering, and I've been there, trust me, I've done it. the energy can kind of overwhelm you. They be bombard you, and you can end up in a bad spot mentally there too. But yeah, those are things that open up your mind and puts you in a different realm. It fires your pineal gland up, and you're accessing parts of your brain that you normally wouldn't be able to access.
Mm-hmm.
And the entities that they're seeing, they know that these realms exist. See, the thing is we are simple minded. We don't want to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're there, we're shocked by it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, we're in this state of mind where we're somewhere where we haven't been before. We're seeing things we haven't seen before. That's because you've never been able to step into that realm. And I don't know if drugs are the way. I mean, you can get into ketamine or whatever, but there's lots of different ways to do that. Now, whether or not you should be doing it is a whole different argument.
Yeah, a lot of people see drugs as like, oh, it's obviously addiction and things, but there are people doing it now recreationally or doing it scientifically, like like taking journals when they go into a trip, writing down what they saw and things, and using it to see, and even down to the point that the government as such are using drugs like ketamine and things for post-stress disorder, is it?
Yeah,
people...
I was getting into that. I did a podcast on this, and I gotta say, I would like to try it in a controlled environment, because in India they do this, and they do it for post-traumatic stress, and they do it for, the big thing is for severe depression, because what I watched, this lady went in and it was injected. It was in a lab or in a doctor's office, and they let her sit there and have her moment, but it basically opens up the world around you and lets you know that the world is, because when you're depressed, you can feel extremely closed in, right? You can feel extremely small, and that's what her interpretation of it all was I could see everything. I could see the world. I could see how how beautiful everything around me is, because sometimes it's hard to take a deep breath and an understanding of how great things are around you and how beautiful this world is that was given to us, and how wonderful things can be, and taking small moments for granted because you're so closed-minded, because they keep you in a box where they want you. So that ketamine, it basically expands your mind, and it relaxes you, and it's a major depression tool now. They're starting to use it for people with major depression, and just watching this lady do it. It's big in India. A lot of Indian people do this, and they use this stuff. Yeah. And it's starting to be mainstream here too, ketamine. I would do it in a controlled environment. I don't know if I wouldn't try no recreational shit off the street. Not nowadays. Maybe 15, 16 years ago, but not nowadays.
It's just good to, I mean, we're not advocating to get drugs and do all this stuff, but just to maybe shed some light on the fact that drugs are actually, they've got some benefits, even down to like cancer. I've heard a lot of people saying about CBD or is it THC or whatever it is, can help with cancer and things. And it's just good to put that side point on it, because obviously the misuse of drugs and not, respecting what you're doing, that's the key message. But I just felt it had to be mentioned tonight, because of the whole, it's almost as if it's a doorway to a different dimension, or
a spiritual realm, the paranormal.
Yes,
opening yourself up to the paranormal.
Yeah,
because that's what it is. I mean, whether you want to call it paranormal or spiritual or interdimensional, it's all the same to me. To me, it's all just different energies and entities and things that you see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It just that's why we mentioned, the only reason we're kind of mentioning drugs, and no, we're not advocating you go out and get some ketamine and snort it or anything like that. But because it does have a connection, you can connect there. You can connect into that world. Like I said, whether or not you should be doing it or not, that's another topic.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't be accessing that world. I know I stay away from Ouija boards. I'm like, no, I'm good. Ouija board, okay, I'll go ahead and go home, because you never know what you're about to invite into your life.
Yeah. Well, that's what basically, I think I did say at the start. I think that's why I'm kind of closed off to it, because I've never invited them in. And I've listened to a podcast recently again with this girl on my favorite podcast, Sam Tripoli, the Tinfoil Hat, and he had a girl on that talked about how she went to get her cards read or did a Ouija board way back in the day, and since then she believes uh, this demon or whatever ghost has attached itself to her and
Mhm.
followed her around and drained her of energy, and she felt so low. She felt like committing suicide a load of times. And when she looked into it and got help and got it lifted off her, she just felt like a weight had been lifted off her, exactly like that. So that's why I believe that you've actually got to invite these beings in or entities into your life. Um, and it's something that I don't want to do. I don't
No.
want to be. But, I was thinking earlier when you said that you had 4 or 5 years in that house. I was just thinking, well, it's 4 or 5 years longer than I would have stayed in that house.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. Yeah, I was so glad we moved out of the house. I mean, because there
Yeah,
was bad energy there. Like I said, there was a murder suicide. I
yeah.
mean, literally, we moved in and there was still blood on the damn window next
Oh,
door.
yeah,
So we was kind of iffy, but I mean, it was too late there. We'd done paid our money. We're moving into this place,
yeah,
and yeah, so something was
yeah,
definitely going on in that house. And
yeah,
I had somebody come out and bless the house. It didn't. It didn't matter. It didn't do anything. It didn't stop it. Okay, I have heard some crazy, seen some crazy stuff, and yeah, I definitely believe hell is real. I don't need somebody to stand up and tell me hell is real. I've heard it, I felt it, I've seen something evil was in that
yeah,
house, and I'm telling you, and that's the big thing about me. That's why I'm so Christian, right? Like I know that I'll talk often and with an open mind because I think I have a deeper understanding. I'm not Christian as if I don't read the Bible and take it as face value. I believe it was meant to be dug into and it was meant to be. It's written in code, the entire thing. It's not like and I've said this before. I envy people that can go to church and just think that God and is just a sky wizard with a big beard hanging up in the clouds. Like, I wish I could be that naive, but and I'm sorry. I hope that don't come off mean, but I'm just not that naive. The Bible was written in code, and it's very. And I've studied other religions, and other religions are in the Bible, and I could dig into all of that stuff. Like, I do believe all religions are one religion, just interpreted in many different ways.
yeah. Mhm.
Um, but I am Christian because I do believe Jesus Christ was the Son of God. And I feel that way, not because anybody sat down and forced me or indoctrinated me to feel that way. I was never forced to go to church. I was never taught Christianity as a kid. Just from experiences that I have experienced in my life, I know that it's real. It's factual to me. I
Mhm.
felt it. I've seen it. I've, felt the presence. I've been whispered to by the voice of angels, okay? And I've seen it long before anybody ever told me I had to. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm so Christian. But you'll hear me talk very openly and minded about it because
yeah.
I believe it in a different sense than other people believe it in. I don't
Mhm.
think it's face value stuff. The spiritual world, when you die and you go on to something, it's all the same. Like, I can sit here and go on about how Hinduism is in the Bible. It's in the Christian version of the Bible. It's like so obvious too, but people don't want to believe it. Or like I find it funny when Muslims and Christians fight and they hate each other. You guys literally practice almost the same exact religion.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It just, but all things lead to a higher power. I just don't know,
Yeah,
again, how you can be completely atheist and not think that there's something
yeah,
more.
yeah. I've
Something
what?
more, man.
Yeah. I've had my battles with my beliefs on religion and things throughout my life, and it's just been something that I've looked into on my own. Like none of my friends, I kept it all quiet. Like I didn't talk about it. I even went to an alpha school, which is a meeting at nights. I went and signed up for one, and while all my mates were out playing football, I was going to this thing once a week, and it was like with adults, and it was just asking questions about the Bible and things, and would have soup and sandwiches, and I didn't know any of these people. I was just intrigued because I think what I told you earlier about my my fear of death and things. I just needed to know if there's something after life, like, or are we just here and gone and that's it forever? So I've kind of I believed in it, then I came away from it because I watched a few documentaries and just what you were saying there about every religion I believe is the same, just with a different adaptation to it, and I still think I do believe that. And only this year, with all the conspiracy stuff that I've gotten into and the deeper stuff that's kind of hidden, I'm starting to realize that religion is massive, and if not, it's the Bible is kind of the manual for how the agenda is played out. Our
Mm-hmm.
lives and what we're seeing today with what's going on in our world. A lot of the headlines that I'm getting sent on a daily basis from a friend, he decodes them, and they're very biblical. And you're spot on again with the Bible's written in code. I think I've listened to a few podcasts where there's numbers in the Bible like 365. Well, there's 365 days in a year, and there's all these, and there's 7 days in a week and things. But that's just a small. I'm just talking about the things that I can remember. But the Bible's definitely written in code, and it's definitely being used by our elites and the people that run our world, i.e., the Rothschilds, and they're what they believe in and things that they so definitely do believe in our religion, and it's being pushed in that way, like antichrists and end of times and things like that. And I'm starting to see that now, and it's opening my mind. So I would like to read the Bible someday, and I'm very open-minded to listening to all the beliefs that Judaism and Muslim and Christianity, I would like to delve into them one day and see.
Yeah. With unbiasedly too, you kind of have to dig into it unbiasedly. Maybe we could do a show on this stuff, because I do. But reading, I know a lot about the different religions because I've studied the different religions and I've made these connections. And in the stories I really like to hear, like the Book of Ezekiel or the Book of Enoch, which was removed, or because they all talk about a higher power or whatever. But it doesn't matter if you read what apocalyptic writing you read, even the Hebrew text that I read about the apocalypse, it's almost like a manual for exactly what's happening. Whether it's the Christian Bible and you jump back to Isaiah, his apocalyptic readings or writings, or whether it was Revelations, it's literally, you can, if you just knife through it, it's a step-by-step manual of how things are going to go, right? You talk about the trumpets and the seals being opened and all these, and all these things are happening in real time right now. And it is mind-blowing. But to your point now, if when you die, is there somewhere else you go, or whatever the case may be? I have seen with my own two eyes and felt. I've been there when people pass away. And I have to tell you, the craziest one was when I was the only one on the scene of a horrific car crash where 4 kids lost their lives. I mean, I'm talking tragically dismembered, horrible. I couldn't even tell that it was a car. Okay, so what was crazy about it is I just walked off the street. I worked a second shift. I didn't get off till 2 a.m. I walk off the street, the main street. My house was right there off the main street. I step in my door and I hear a boom that was so loud it shook my house, and I thought somebody had hit my house. I step out. I see a car that had hit a telephone pole at 100 miles an hour. It was mangled. It was just in pieces. And when them kids had to have died instantly, because you're talking dismembered. Okay, it was absolutely just a horrific scene. You could feel the presence of God there. You can feel something, the energy level that was around that. Okay, so you're going to think 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm there with 4 dead bodies, dismembered and in pieces all over this field. I could feel the presence of everything. I could feel the presence of them. I could feel the presence of something that was just beautiful. I mean, because you can feel it. You can feel it was just so good. You could just feel how good and how warm it was, and how standing there looking at this car accident, knowing what is happening, looking at these, I'm not even kidding you, parts of bodies, and feeling the energy there of a calming, positive presence. It just didn't make sense, right? So my mind, I should be flipping out. I should be terrified. I should be screaming. I should be mortified. But there was such a calming, such a positive presence in that field that you could feel it was all fine. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. It's the strangest thing, these energies that you feel and the things that I felt over my life. But that moment right there was very, very strange. I should be mortified, but I am completely 100% calm. I know everything's okay. And everything, it was just such a calming presence. And I know that those 4 kids, I mean, you had a 12-year-old, her 20-year-old sister, a couple 22-year-olds in the car. You just knew that they were all just fine and they had moved on. I never got to tell her because one person did walk away. I watched him walk away. I tried to get him help. And here's what's really weird about it, Ian. he walked away, and this was right before my wife and I started dating. You know where he went? He walked away. She lived in the neighborhood next to me, so he went, sat for 4 hours to gather himself because he had just been in a horrific car accident. And then the very next door he knocked on, the very next person to see him was my future wife.
Gee.
He went, out of all the houses in the neighborhood that he could have went to, he goes to my future
Wow.
wife's house. And that's how we kind of met and started talking
Gee
and
whiz.
connecting. And
That is crazy.
it was very weird. But yeah, I wish I never did tell the mother. I wish if the mom ever sees this by some chance, of the two girls, you know, because I had to go to court for this because the guy got tried for vehicular homicide and stuff. But your kids were fine. Trust me. It's a weird feeling. You know, I know they were gone. I know it was very horrific, you know, whatever. But they were good. They were fine. Trust me. I felt it. You feel those things. So when you die, I do believe there is something that happens.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about the calmness coming over people and hearing voices at times of tragedy and things. And again, I wanted to say about when people die, going back to the drugs again. I don't want to go back to them, but it's like, see that the drug dimethyltryptamine, it's DMT, but the real name's dimethyltryptamine or something. That is the drug that your brain produces when you die. Mm-hmm. And that's weird. Again, it's a weird coincidence that when we take this drug, we can get to a higher state.
That's the connection in your pineal gland when the DMT starts firing up, and because when you die, your pineal gland starts to fire up and go crazy, right? Because your body releases a ton of DMT.
Yeah.
The DMT, your pineal gland, even melatonin that your body produces while you're sleeping, all of those things connect you to that realm, to different realms. And that's your energy. That's your spiritual connection. You know, when I often see like black matter or dark matter, how it spreads throughout the universe and everything, and they only have like one little infrared image of what they believe it is. We travel. It looks like a giant spider web, and we travel through those are spiritually. We can travel to all those. I do believe we are connected universally, whether it be parallel universes or out there in outer space. I know you think outer space is a topic, but you definitely travel through there. And when you talk about drugs and DMT, that's what happens when you activate your pineal gland. It's all the eye of Horus. It's all that third eyeball that's in the center of your brain. That's your connection to everything. Mm-hmm. And they're desperately trying to shut it off so you can't have that connection. Yeah. And then they're effective. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess we'll end this thing here. Are you ready? Penny, for your thoughts. Are you convinced that the paranormal world is a real thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was open from the start. I was like, I'm open-minded to hearing. I wouldn't like to be disingenuous again and come on and say, yeah, I believe in it and all that when I haven't had anything done to me. But again, listening to your stories, and I trust in you that you're telling me the truth, and I've heard all these stories from other people, and I just see the good in people and think they must be telling the truth. So I'm see the energy stuff. For me, the energy stuff I'm very interested in. I do believe that it's real and that there's something else other than just skin and bone and what we are. You know, we are materialistic. We're objects basically, but our consciousness, leaves. You know, the whole thing about when we die, our bodies become lighter. I loved hearing that. That gave me a lot of comfort hearing that fact years ago. And I've got to believe that there is something that happens after our life, and whether these energies can stick around on planet Earth and, you know, affect our lives. You know, like when we're talking about, we can see them sometimes if we're open-minded enough, if our pineal gland's clean enough, or whatever. I certainly believe that as well. So, yeah, I don't want to, you know, give a percentage. I think that would be a bit, you know, but I believe there's more to life than just us, you know. Just what we can see.
In other words, you believe in the paranormal.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. I think tonight's show, I think you nailed it on the head. It all revolved around how many times do we talk about energy? because there's something in us, and whether you want to call it energy, whether you want to call it spirit, whether you want to call it your inner being, whatever, your moral compass, I don't care what you want to call it. It guides you through life. It makes you who you are. It connects you to other people and their energies, or it pushes you away from other people. You often hear about people who hung out when they were kids and they had no idea that they were in the same picture, and then years later they're a married couple and they're like, oh my god, I was there that day. Oh my god, we're in the same picture, because you're drawn together through that energy, and that energy never dies. That spirit, whatever you want to call it, it never dies. It just passes on. It keeps transferring, or it goes to a higher place. I'm a believer, like I said, I'm a Christian, but my belief in heaven isn't some planet that you're living on. It's not some thing, space in the clouds or whatever. It's a whole nother dimension that we don't have access to. When you talk about drugs and you talk about those things, you can kind of spark into those dimensions and you can kind of hang out there for a second, but you can't go there until you die. And that's where we go, because everybody that does DMT says, oh my god, it was so beautiful, it was so beautiful. What I believe paranormal things are, ghosts maybe be people who died and their energy is stuck here. It cannot move on for whatever reason. I do believe people get stuck in and they can't pass on to the next dimension. We talked about Hatman or evil entities. I think that they can enter and exit different dimensions. I believe they have access and codes and ways they have figured it out. Interdimensional travel, which is what we didn't bring up CERN, but that's what they're trying to do in Switzerland as well. But I believe that you can travel through these dimensions, and I think we do that with DMT in different ways. Ketamine, we kind of open our minds and travel in through there with our third eyes or whatever. But yes, it all revolves around your energy, what makes you you. That's what it is.
Yeah. So
that's the penny from my thought, I guess.
Yeah. Nice
the whole show revolved around it. We kept bringing up the energy,
Yeah.
I don't know. We have to do a show on DMT and things like that.
Yeah. There's so many shows that even throughout where Moon Landing one and things were like, oh, we could do a show on that. There's tons, and I've got a list of them that we're just gonna go through. But I'm constantly adding. This show could, we could be going on for years.
Right.
So
because the world is more different than what you. That's what this show's really all about. Is kind of having you open your mind a little bit. That's what our goal is, anyways, to prove to you that you're not living in a small box, and life isn't what what they tell you. You have to accept it to be.
Yeah.
They've lied to you. They've manipulated you. We talked tonight about how they put fluoride and different poisons in your food to make you not be able to spiritually connect right. They've taken God and the spiritual life out of everything, and they do that with everyday life in order to place you in the matrix and plug you up and just make you a battery that runs the world, because that's what we are. Yeah. We're just slaves to the world, and that's how they want you to feel, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
I think we had a good show tonight. Good job.
Yeah, it was good. I liked how it was more, conversational and to hear, and the listener will maybe appreciate that, because some of these episodes we've done, the moon landing for sure, it was a big take on, and the research and some of the big fancy words and the scientific terms and things like it was a bit much, but I think we gave it a good go, and something that we could touch upon is the moon landing poll results were in, and I checked up tonight before we came on air. So I asked people what their thoughts were before listening to our podcast on the moon landing, and it was 50-50. So I'll send one out tonight. And I'll see after listening if we've managed to change our minds, because obviously we want it to be, feedback is key, and get any guests on if you want to come on and talk about your beliefs, or if we've said anything in any of our episodes that you disagree with or you agree with or you want to add more to. Certainly send in your questions and comment on our posts and whatever, and we'll have you on.
And when you can find us where?
Well, we're on this week. I've actually discovered a great thing called Linktree. Now, this thing might have been out for years or months. I do not know, but I only discovered it by chance by clicking on one of the podcasts that I follow. And we now have a Linktree link in our biography on Instagram, on Penny for Your Thoughts. podcast, and we also have it in the Facebook page. Yeah. So with that, a lot of people were complaining that they couldn't find us when they searched Penny for Your Thoughts on YouTube. You know, you have to click on channel and then we'll come up there. But because we're only a new podcast, we're not going to be easily found. And I think the name Penny for Your Thoughts is quite common. There's maybe some songs and theatres and plays that are called Penny for Your Thoughts. But with the more episodes we produce, and obviously the more followers we get, I think Steve mentioned if we get 25 followers on Facebook,
we'll be creating the little @ symbol, so you can kind of just type us in and you can find us. Because if you find us one place, whether it be Instagram, Penny for Your Thoughts, or and I'll put all the links here and all the how you spell it out and everything. Mm-hmm. If you can find us in one place, you can find us in all the places, because the link tree is also on Facebook as well. Yeah. So when I'll create the @ and I'll get that out there, and just hopefully you guys can follow us. And as you said, we'll grow, and then it'll be easier to find us.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
All right. So thank you guys for watching our episode 5. I thought it went pretty well, and we will be back after it next week. Thank you guys, and we appreciate you.
Yeah.
See you.
Cheers,
Ian.
guys. See you, Steve.
Dum dooby dum dooby 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 dum dum dooby dum dooby 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 dum. I'd give a penny for your thoughts, little boy. Am I the one that you dream of? Do you thrill each time we kiss? Don't keep me in debt like this. Who's the one you love, little boy? I'd give a penny for your thoughts, little boy. If you love me, tell me so. Won't you whisper in my ear? Say the words I wanna hear. Should I